Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Alex Lima, Director of Career Services at Atlantis University. I'm very glad today to have Cynthia Hollen as my guest, and I'm grateful to have her here with us tonight. It's about 5:30 p.m., so I'm going to introduce her to you briefly. She is a very well-respected woman in technology with a lot of experience. She's the CEO of Omnitail Strategies, being in board of directors for a lot of technology companies and retail companies. And she and I, we go a couple of years back in lots of opportunities that we have discussed and have talked. So I think it's always good to have her here because she can give you a wealth of experience and ideas and her perspective about how technology is changing businesses, how businesses are changing technology. And when she told me about what she wanted to speak today, I was very happy because I think it's a very timely topic. So without further ado, I just want to pass that to Cynthia. Thanks very much, Cynthia, for coming.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks so much for asking me to be here.
Well, absolutely. And I would like to just go over, pass that to you so we can start. If you want to present something, welcome. And after that, we're going to make it more conversational, very informal. So just have like the flow, and then we take some questions. And then I think it's going to be time well spent.
Perfect. Perfect.
All right. Thank you.
Alex, as you know, you asked me to come and speak to your students and your faculty about technology, and that is such a broad topic that I think that businesses have a very different perspective on what it means to think about technology depending on the kind of company they are. And I like to think of technology as sort of two sides of the same coin. There's the technology of business, meaning how does every single company in the world have to think about technology to run their company? And then there's actually the business of technology companies, which is an entirely different matter. Running a technology company can become so all-encompassing of the invention and the development and the evangelizing of what you're producing that people tend to forget that running a technology company is fundamentally about being a business. So we really have to make sure that those two sides of the same coin are integrated in both kinds of companies. Mm-hmm. And I work with lots of CEOs in both kinds of companies all the time. And it's something that people are becoming to have more respect around, but it still is something that we really need to make sure that you, going out into your first careers or you're starting your own new businesses, think about fundamentally. The role of technology has obviously changed significantly in the last decades and even in the last couple of years. Right. Where you and I, when we started in our careers in technology, there was an IT department. Right. And when something had to be done that had to do with technology, everybody in the company said, oh, call IT. Right. And that department with hundreds of people would take care of doing it, and nobody was allowed to do anything else. Now, if there is an IT department, they're in charge of tech support, they're in charge of security, but they're definitely not in charge of making the decisions about what technology gets used and right. how it's deployed, and they're absolutely not involved in how technology is going to be used to strategically impact the direction of a company. Right. So as you all think about what your careers need to be in taking everything that you're learning in technology and where you want to take that and how you want to grow your career, want to think about how all of the different ways that technology can be deployed throughout an organization. So again, I like to think about the fundamental differences between the business of technology and the technology of business. And let's start talking about the business of technology, because that's what we all want to do now, right? We all want to start the new tech startup company. That's what we're all here for. That's what we're all going to school for. That's what we're all starting our new co's and raising our money for. And I see all over the world, 15-year-old people starting companies, 60-year-old people starting companies, and it's the great American dream now, right? To have the next big tech startup right. and get VC funding of millions of dollars and go out and run your tech company. And I see over and over and over again brilliant technologists with great ideas for how to implement and build groundbreaking innovations. I'm using machine learning, I'm using artificial intelligence, I'm using big data, I'm using virtual reality, I'm using blockchain, I'm using crypto, all the great technology innovations that I'm bringing to my innovation that I'm coming up with. And in order for that to be something more than a project, in order for that to be something more than your brilliant development, you have to actually build a company.
Right.
And that means putting aside all the fun technology stuff and thinking about all of the pieces that you need to make a company successful. And I've seen far too many technology companies be all about the technology and spend all of the money that they've raised, and 3 years later go to market and start trying to sell their technology and find out that they never thought to ask customers whether this was going to make sense for them, and find out that they have to go back to the drawing board and start all over again because they didn't build what customers actually need or want. Or they didn't think about structuring their company in a way that they can deploy or launch or market or build profitably, so that all the money that they've raised is now gone and they have to go out and buy more, build more, raise more money.
Right.
So these are the kinds of things that really great successful technology companies, like hopefully all of the technology companies that you guys are going to start, have to think about. Now, you all study business as well, so you know these things, but think strongly as you're going out and becoming the CEO of your new awesome technology company. The business components that you need to think about are the sexy things that we all talk about in the press and on Twitter all day long, your corporate structure. How am I going to set up my company? How am I going to raise money? What's my legal structure? What is my investment equity structure going to look like? These are things that we all do spend a decent amount of time talking about, but it means talking to lawyers, making sure that you're getting your tax structure right, not spending way too much time and money working on all of that part, but quickly and effectively setting yourself up for a business that can run for where your business needs to operate globally, domestically, depending on the kinds of employees you have, working through all of those issues. That's basic fundamental stuff. The finances of running a business are the lifeblood of running a company, and maybe it's the boring part, maybe to me it's the best part, because profits, if you're not in it for profits, then what are you in it for? But making sure that you have a good solid grounding on making sure that your bookkeeping is right and your finances are right and your cash flow plans are right, and that you actually know the difference between cash and profit, which I cannot tell you the number of successful entrepreneurs from all walks of life don't understand the difference between cash and profit. Just because I have money in the bank doesn't mean that I made money this year. And just because I don't have money in the bank doesn't mean that I didn't have a lot of profit this year. Really, as a CEO of a business, understanding the foundations of those things is it's a critical responsibility that you have.
Right.
Now, you can hire people to help coach you on all of those other pieces, but if you don't understand the difference between cash and profit, go out and sit down with somebody until you absolutely positively do. All of the different pieces of your legal structure, I wouldn't recommend spending tons of money on lawyers. Don't tell any of my lawyers I said that. But you do need to understand what fundamentally you own. What intellectual property do I own? What do my contracts give me the right to do? What am I negotiating? How am I positioning myself so that when I go into a joint venture or a partnership with somebody and I come out a year from now, did I legally agree to something that gives them 99% of the value of the business? One of my very early clients, and I won't tell you who they were, very big retailer, came to me and said, Cynthia, I just found out that the agency that we hired to build our first website owns all of the code of our website because our marketing department thought that they were hiring an ad agency like they've always hired an ad agency. And they're now telling us that they own 100% of everything, and if we want to do anything to our website, we can't. They own our website. So the marketing department signed a contract without understanding what ownership of intellectual property or IT was, because it's not something they'd ever had to do before, right? Make sure that you really understand what you don't know, and don't get yourself in those kinds of terrible situations, because that's a bad place to be. Customers is one of the biggest mistakes that I see technology companies not understanding about their business, which is coming in, and the best CEOs of technology companies will sit in front of any customer and explain to them, listen to them about all of the problems that they have, and tell them how they're going to help their business be better, how they're going to help their customer grow their business and solve their problems. And they're never going to tell them why, all of the great features of their technology and all the reasons why their technology is going to change their life. All they're going to do is talk to them about how they that they're going to help solve a fundamental problem that they deeply understand about a retailer. A perfect example, I work a lot in e-commerce. A great example of that is that, I won't go through any specific technology, but you can name 1,000 technologies that have come out of technologists knowing the next great solution for how to sell online. I have a great augmented reality solution. I have a great fitting tech solution, a great photography solution, a great merchandising solution, a great e-commerce solution. Without understanding what it takes to, how many times a year does a retailer bring new product into a store?
Right.
Some of them bring it in 6 times a year. Some of them bring it in 30 times a year. How many items of clothing are you bringing in? Your fantastic solution that you just spent 3 years developing now has to bring in thousands and thousands of SKUs for your retailer every 2 weeks. Do you know how much money they're going to have to spend to hire somebody to just steam press the clothes and get them ready for photography and write the copy? And why am I going to spend $2,000 on a dress that I might only make $4,000 selling because it's going to be out of stock in 2 weeks? So without fundamentally understanding the business of my customer, the coolest technology in the world is not going to get sold to anybody, because it's not going to address the fundamental day-to-day operational issues that go on at your customer. That's your retail customer. Now what about your customer's customer? What's going to make your customer's customer want to use your technology and buy? So always thinking about your technology business from the business of your customers is what makes a great successful technology business. That goes to the go-to-market strategy as well, which is how am I going to grow my business out if I don't have a plan for who I want to sell my technology to. Everybody wants to, I'm going to sell my technology to Walmart. I'm going to sell my technology to BMW. I'm going to sell my technology to Amazon, and everything's going to be great. And that sounds great, but unless you have a plan that specifically says, here's why and how much and how we're going to get there, and who, what my message needs to be and how I'm going to get in front of those people, you have a great technology that is going to make some really great videos about. So understanding how to develop a team to put together a good sales and marketing strategy and a good go-to-market plan and strategy is a critical part of the business of technology. And once you have sold all of these amazing clients, who's going to keep them buying more from you, evangelizing for you, being happy, helping you innovate, helping you go forward? What does it mean to have a deep relationship with the customers of my technology to help me grow my customer out? So none of those things that I just said have anything to do with the technology that I just built. I didn't mention once anything about the product, right? That's the foundation of a technology company.
Right.
This is the business of a technology company. And those are the exciting things that great founders get and know, and that's how you make money. The flip side of that in your career now as a technology person going into business would to say, I want to go into an existing company and help them figure out how they're going to use technology to grow their retail company or their car company or their utility company, their hotel, their university, their hospital. All the different companies, every company in the world is living and breathing technology in
Right.
every single piece of your business now. There's no such thing as an IT department that
Right.
is who we call when I need to, get my email up and running. So you have lots and lots of areas of a business now that the CEO of a company, not just the IT, the CIO, but the CEO of a company and every other person in the company needs to be thinking about what does technology mean for my company and how is technology going to help us succeed as a business.
Right.
Some of those things are the infrastructure pieces. Obviously, I've got to get the network set up. I've got to get people laptops ordered. I have to make sure that my company is not going to get hacked, and I've got security policies and all of those critical things, and the fundamental components of the day-to-day tools that everybody uses. The rest of it is on a department by department basis. What are the products that we're going to roll out? The great new reservation system that I want to offer to my customers, or my finance system that I'm going to use to better analyze and dice and slice my data so that I understand my competitors and my customers better than anybody else does. All of the new utilities that are going to be brought to me by every single salesperson from every different sector to every single one of my departments, and how is my marketing department, my sales department, my product department, my manufacturing department all going to be able to make their own decisions effectively
Right.
about technology. So that's how technology works inside a business today, and understanding how I'm going to effectively decide who gets to make those decisions, how much money we're going to spend for them, who's going to maintain them after the fact, are the strategic things that are what I call the technology of business.
Right.
Okay, and that's then we wanted to talk about Miami after that was. So those are really my key message when people ask me going into a career in technology, are to really make sure that you understand those fundamental differences and all of the exciting opportunities that full breadth of needs and opportunities present themselves.
Right. Yeah, I think it's interesting what you said, and that's what I like about this topic that you presented, because I still remember many years ago we had the IT department, right? So people that were just running some reports and creating some records for the company, particularly because of the finance or the taxes or legal aspects, very detached from the processes, and the business processes were mostly manual. And we see today, without going to the specifics how this thing evolved, how you see today the companies are, like you said, the business of IT and the IT of business. Mm-hmm. So that today is like a merge of processes and technology, almost in a way that there's no business segment that does not talk techie, mm-hmm. healthcare, finance, logistics, entertainment, manufacturing, aerospace, any segment. You may look finance, banks super automated, right? Super, mm-hmm. All connected. Investment, banks, investment funds, you name it, there's a lot of technology behind it, right? So, mm-hmm. but in this thing, which is good, in some aspects, there's some challenges as well. You see the case of Colonial Pipeline, where the hackers, got money, the money was returned. You saw the fluctuations of Bitcoin, the Bitcoin market go up and down, and all these things. A lot of manipulation. Yes, there's a lot of issues with hackers, security, fraud, et cetera, right? Privacy, et cetera. But one thing I was going to ask you, Cynthia, I have a couple of things that right in my mind, is about, all together, if you could say, what are one or two hot buttons that you think in today's market, when you look at businesses and technology, or the technology of business, what comes to your mind immediately? And I can call hot button.
technology for technology's sake is never going to get us anywhere, but
Right.
technology is the buzzword of almost every conversation we have today. You turn on the news and they're talking about their new streaming channels.
Right.
Is that about technology, or is that about just thinking about new ways to interact with our customers? And I like to just erase the technology as the medium or the venue and think about what is it that we're trying to achieve. And when we can do that, then it's not about the technology at all, but it's about recognizing that we've created an almost limitless possibility of innovation. And technology, of course, is not just computer technology, it's biotech
Right.
technology. We're making hydrogen from trash and not having to produce carbon anymore to create power. There's the range of things that are technology are endless. I read an article yesterday about a new kind of concrete that has enzymes in the concrete that allow the concrete to repair itself when the concrete gets little cracks in it, so that you never again have to worry about the concrete in the roads rotting and having to go out and be jackhammered, because the concrete can repair itself.
There's something interesting. 'Cause
Technology is amazing.
I keep thinking, what's going to happen 5,000 years from now if this building is going to be here? We don't have to worry about that right now, because I don't think we'll be here, but I think it's an interesting point. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, the pyramids are still around.
Yeah,
They built those
but
pretty well.
we were not.
I'm
but
not
anyway.
sure about these ones.
Yeah, but one thing I want to tell you is like this. I see a lot of risks associated with technology as well, right? And you see the market has changed in a way that, because of these dependency, people ask me a lot about privacy. Oh, is there privacy? And I personally think there's not much privacy anymore. Reality is there's no much privacy. There are the issues about hackers, right? And hacking and all the elements of hacking. The confusion and the dependency that people, like you said, too much on the technology, for the technology, right? And quite frankly, the companies I have been dealing with, they spend 30-40% more in technology than they should, and they don't get the return on investment that they expect to have. So that's my personal experience. So I want to ask you, from your perspective, what are the risks? What are the things that really catch your attention? Or have caught your attention throughout the years in terms of risks or cautions that we should have about technology? You already mentioned some about not doing for the technology's sake of technology, but what else you see?
So we talk about Colonial Pipeline as an example. I think that goes to the point that I was talking about before, about the business of technology. The risks are not thinking holistically about all of the ways that technology impacts your business, or all of the ways that your business impacts your technology. Those, to me, are the only risks. When we invented fire, the original technology, right? When we invented the wheel, the original technology, a lot of stuff burned down. That doesn't mean that inventing fire was a bad thing to do. It means we didn't think a lot about, we had to think a lot about the right ways to use fire. We don't really burn stuff down a lot using fire as a tool anymore. And technology is always going to be a tool in the right hands and an accident when neglected.
Right.
And privacy, security are huge risks every single time, just like burning a house down with this brand new fire tool that we just invented. But it has to be budgeted for and taken as absolutely positively seriously as it is. Getting hacked and losing all of your data is not an oops. That's foreseeable and preventable.
Right.
And it's a responsibility of you running your business to make sure that you have thought through recovery plans. And any company that I would run would have to be responsible for thinking all of those things through. You talk about privacy. I think privacy is a fascinating word that old people like us talk about, but I don't think that the people who are posting pictures of themselves 24 hours a day are thinking about privacy in the same way that we do. Doesn't mean that privacy isn't still something that you expect to have respect around, but it means something different, right? I know that, I think everybody knows that your phone and your home speakers are listening to absolutely everything you say all day long. So if you want to be having a private conversation, then you better be, swimming in the ocean, up to your neck in water, chatting with your friend wet, because otherwise your conversation is being overheard, and there's listening devices that can get to you there. So privacy is something that we think about differently as a privilege, something that we want to not assume, but protect and enforce and treasure where we have it. But what some people consider a violation of privacy, most people have come to expect as a reasonable trade-off, a reasonable currency for getting a better life. When my car tells me that if you think you're going home now, you better leave a little bit earlier because there's going to be heavy traffic. I didn't tell my car I was going to go home. How dare it know that? But that's really that was aiding my life, that my car guessed that I was probably going to go home, and a million other intrusions and examples. But
yeah, I tell people, that's a good point you made about the wide presence that we have today in social media. And I talk a lot with the students about the situation that we have. We have the LinkedIn, which is a professional networking. Then we have Facebook, we have Instagram, we have all that. So you are in multiple places with different personas, potentially, right? You have a professional persona, your own individual, and you got to be careful because employers or companies or customers or partners, they're looking at you globally, generically, right? So what I'm saying, one of the risks I personally think is that you're much more in a showcase than you used to be before, right? It's much harder to, besides the hacking and everything else, everything is visible to some extent. If you want to see it, if you want to find it, you have enough resources, you can find pretty much everything you want, right? But let's talk about something a little more upbeat in the sense about Miami Tech, right? Miami is becoming a interesting hub for a lot of technology, which was not like this before. When I moved to Miami, and way before me moving to Miami, Miami was very different. In fact, the first time I came here in 1980 was a retirement place. People just retired and they moved here. It was very boring. Not the downtown was very different, right? Miami Beach was just little buildings. But now you see how it's happening. So tell me a little bit about Miami Tech. What's happening?
On fuego, right? Miami Tech. If everybody's been obviously reading the news and Twitter and what has gone on in Miami for the last 10, 15 years with a lot of effort being put in from Emerge America and Endeavor and Refresh and all of the companies that have been building here for decades, obviously Motorola, IBM, Ryder Systems, some of the fundamental technology companies that have built a basis here, Atlantis, FIU, University of Miami, FAU, all of the institutions who have been working hard to build this as one of the deep capability bases of technology in the country. What we have not seen until very recently are the volume of startups and the volume of investors and the volume of just collaboration, I think, more than anything else, that ironically has come out of the pandemic. So we had lots of little technology companies running themselves out of their WeWork offices or their houses or their offices, but the collaboration and inclusion and awareness that came about because everyone was so isolated from each other has been phenomenal. So in the last year, certainly in the last 6 months, where new technologists and new investors have come in from all over the world and from lots of different places of the country, there was more of an outreach for people to coordinate with each other, find out what new resources were available, and from that came new connectivity tools. with people reaching out and building forums for each other to
Right.
share information with each other and becoming more aware and more appreciative of the things that already exist in Miami. But there are hundreds of thousands of technologists, and some of the top venture capital firms and private equity firms
Right.
in the world have come and set up, either moved their offices altogether to Miami, South Florida, or have set up, significant operations here. And startup after startup after startup are raising millions or tens of millions of dollars
Right.
to hire Miami-based companies. SoftBank several months ago announced a $100 million fund just to fund Miami-based startups. And the ability for anybody who's looking to be involved in Miami tech and actually quickly get acquainted with all of the opportunities has fundamentally changed.
Right.
So there are, for anyone now who's looking, there are, all you have to do is go onto Twitter and start searching for information about Miami tech.
Right.
And you're going to find all of the events and all of the job resource boards and all of the companies who are looking to hire. But I would make sure that your students are, one, aware that there are networking events happening almost every day of the week.
Well, I got to mention before I forgot, yes. Tomorrow, which is Thursday, right?
Yes.
So we have BB&T in Broward. There's a big job fair event with thousands of companies that are going to be recruiting people in Broward. So I have sent yesterday a note to the community, the students. So people that are looking for opportunities, that's a great place to be. So one examples of job
Fantastic.
fairs in the BB&T
There are
Stadium, the Panther Stadium.
Huge new job fairs, some broadly, not just in technology, but broadly
Right.
across all career areas. Refresh Miami is an online resource that I highly recommend as a job posting board, as a place to go every single day, just to be aware of all of the different things that are happening with the companies, with the investors, with the jobs, with the new innovations that are happening in Miami all the time. Endeavor, as we mentioned before, Emerge America's annual conference, and now the new Miami Tech Week, which didn't exist until 2021, came out of nowhere in about a 3-week period, and is now an official, formal city, county, state endorsed activity that next year will coincide with the Emerge conferences.
Yes, hopefully I'm going to have it next year, the Emerge Americas.
It's already scheduled, and people are starting to put big money and big events and big planning around what is going to be probably rival Art Basel as a massive Miami event that is globally attended. And that's bringing even more attention to all of the innovations that are coming here. But I highly recommend that people get involved in looking at those resources, making sure that you're reaching out to what the cities are offering, what the counties are offering, what all of the local institutions, schools are offering, and getting on Twitter and reading, because there are people hiring every single level, from CEOs to entry-level programmers and executive assistants and interns, and all the way through on Twitter all day long. Of course, on the job boards, of course, with the growing number of executive recruiters who are working in this space. So, on fuego.
I would like to thank you for coming, because I think it's a great opportunity to have you here and share your experience and have somebody from the outside give you a perspective what's going on in the tech market. Because as I said, and you said very well about the merging of technology and business technology. There's no much more separation, right? So it's going to be a single thing, regardless of the industry that you are in. So anybody today has to be acquainted at minimal with systems, with technologies, and ways of doing things that need automation, need integration, need data, need analytics. I need systems, computers, different devices connected. And now with this discussion that we'll leave for the next time of the Internet of Things, and the bringing of artificial intelligence, virtual reality, all the virtual augmentation, reality augmentation, all those things bringing together that expansion of the connectivity, as you said, I think the world is going to be very different in the next, it's already different than last 5 years, but I think it's going to be a lot different in the next 5 to 10 years.
The world is going to be very different because of the students who are coming out of your program and other programs. You guys are the ones who have the ideas and the passion and the knowledge and the expectations, the customer expectations of how things need to be in the future that are going to fundamentally change things absolutely for the better.
Yeah. So I just wanted to, any questions from anybody before we close for the evening? So Cynthia, again, thanks very much for coming.
Thanks so much, Alex.
So I wanted to thank everybody for participating, and I was glad to have her here with us. So thanks for coming, Cynthia. It was great to have you here. So thanks everybody for participating. I wish you good luck in all your endeavors, and Cynthia, we'll continue our conversations as we always do. So it was a great opportunity to have her here. We invite you for future discussions or panels. We're going to put that together in terms of giving the students a little bit of an understanding of what's the market holds, or what's happening in the customer base, or what's happening in the business, or expectations of people, how to maximize return of the investment of technology that we see in all the companies. And with that, I want to thank all the participants. I wish you all well. Have a nice evening. I'll see you next time. Thank you.